All right. Good morning, people of YouTube. So today we are back again with another rogue deck profile. This one is super fun. This is going to be Dorbick Imperial. So the idea behind this, right, is people have been splashing Dorbickmon in a lot of decks lately. What this card does is it digicrosses -2 for up to 5 Digimon cards with different names that either have dragon somewhere in their traits, soar somewhere in their traits, or whatever the word for like Triceratops is. Um, so you can, if you digicross with the full 5, this card reduces itself by 10, making itself a 3 cost. It gets Rush, and then you delete a body that's 3000 DP. And then for every card that you cross, the maximum DP becomes 2000 bigger. So if you do a full digicross, you can delete something that's 13,000. You got a 12k body on the board. You only paid 3 memory, and you have Rush, right? And this is really good because Imperialdramon, as a deck, draws a bunch of cards. At the end of the game, you will have like 12 to 15 cards in your hand, and every card that you want to be playing 4 of, with the exception of Staymon, is going to be a viable Digicross target for the Dorbickmon. So like Imperialdramon, Vmon, Ex3, even both Imperials count as 2 different names because of their parentheses. So this card is absolutely fantastic in a deck like this, especially if you can drop it in the mid to late game and just kind of close out. Just in Imperial, getting an extra body in play that can attack is a very strong aspect of the deck, especially since this deck statistically just wants to rush your opponent down. Something that I do want to note is that this deck becomes a lot better with the security rookies that we get, because the security Blukomon is going to be a mini dragon that, when checked in your security, will let you draw 2 cards and then adds itself to the hand. So let's say you draw 2 different dragons, that's 3 additional Digicross components for this card, and a lot of them will be pieces that you need for your Imperial combos as well. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the deck profile, what some of the cards do, and go from there. So if you guys like this kind of content, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and without further ado, here are the eggs. So the one that I do want to play 4 of is going to be the Demi-Vmon. That gives me, if I have jamming, I draw a card. This card is just phenomenal at increasing your hand size, getting more pieces for both the Dorbick and the Imperial plays. It's absolutely phenomenal. So for a 5th egg, you could play the Chiaro because we are substituting the security Bluko for the Bt5 Bluko. And you do have some Source Strip combos that you can do there. The Upamon is also cool, but this is the egg that you want to be playing 4 of. So for the rookies, the only card in the deck that isn't a Digicross, or the only rookie in the deck that isn't a Digicross component, is the 2 Bt11. But this card is absolutely phenomenal in the matchups like Bloomlord, anything purple. This card is just going to be good until basically the end of time. So we got 1 copy of the Vmon that says if we unsuspend, we draw a card. This card is great in comboing with Imperialdramon, increasing our hand size, things of that nature. Then we got 4 copies of the Jamming Vmon. So this is something that typically isn't in an Imperial deck, like, at all. I've elected to play 4 here because it combos really nicely with Demi Vmon. And instead of stacking up on Vmon inheritables, this deck aims to swing face a little bit more, go a little bit wider, put more pressure on your opponent in the early game. And this card helps you do that, while also drawing more cards for your combos in the mid game. But basically, one of the reasons I wanted to do this was so that I could include more dragons and dinosaurs in my rookie lineup, because Dorbickmon takes different names. So just loading up on Vmons doesn't really do well for that strategy. I hinted at this earlier, but we do play 4 copies of the Bt5 Blukomon. This card's still pretty good. If you strip a source, you gain a memory. This card combos really well with Sorai, with Howling. There are a bunch of blue cards that this card is nice with, but all of those source strip cards will come out whenever we do get the new Blukomon. But this card is really nice in the meantime. Giving you some extra memory here and there is good. And it's just a decent inheritable effect, and it's a dragon, and you can still evolve it for 0 in the raising area. So it serves all the functions you need it to. So the last 3 cards of the deck are objectively bad, but they are additional names. We got 2 copies of the Snow Agumon and 1 copy of the Dracomon from the starter deck. The Dracomon can come up because it can hit cards like Imperialdramon, Imperialdramon, things like that. But typically, you're just digicrossing both of these. The Snow Agumon has an inheritable effect that very rarely comes up as well. Most of the times, you'll forget that you have that, so try to avoid that because it can help in niche matchups like D-Brigade, Jessmon, and even Bloomlord sometimes if they go to evolve on one of the rookies that they spit out. This card can actually come in clutch there. But yeah, these are just additional Digicross components. We have 13 different names in the deck, and these cards help add to it. Realistically, you could cut these for more copies of Vmons, but then you'd only have 11 names, and that's a little bit less consistent. But for the level 4s, we got 4 copies of the X-Vmon with jamming and the inheritable jamming. This card is a staple in Imperial, and it's just an overall great card. We bumped Stingmon down to 3, so that I could make room for 2 copies of the Parasaurmon. So this card, the Parasaurmon, also functions as a 3 cost that you can hard play for your DNA Digivolution plays. But this is also a dinosaur, so it actually serves a dual purpose as being Dorbick food as well. But the Stingmon's pretty cool. You know, drawing a bunch of cards anytime you swing, if you have a blue Digimon in play, you trigger this multiple times off the Imperialdramon, you can trigger the Demi-Vmon. You can get into situations where you can go like +5 off of a single Imperialdramon, and that's pretty insane. So we did want to include 3 copies of this card still, just because it is such an important component in Imperial, even though it isn't a Dorbick component. But closing off the rookies, we aren't playing any of the Lightramons or anything like that, because Lightramon is a beast. I suppose you could play Flamedramon because it is a Dragonkin, but I elected to play the Cordramon instead. So this card has a security effect that just plays itself, and then on play you draw 2 cards. Pot of Greed with legs is fantastic. If your opponent hits this in security and you play it, it's just really good because then you have a blue level 4 in play, and then you can just play the Parasaurmon or the Stingmon from your hand in the following turn, and then go into a big Imperialdramon. So that's fantastic. And it's also a dragon. It gets you more cards in your hands that you can get extra access to all your plays. This card is just phenomenal. And the last level 4 I'm playing is the single copy of Lobo for game, because we are playing a fair amount of blue Tamers. So for the level 5s, got 4 copies of Imperialdramon. It is a Dragonkin. It swings multiple times, and it bottom decks something. This card is phenomenal, and it's the best card in Imperialdramon's engine. And then we have the single copy of Majiramon. So Majiramon really kind of sucks if you have to evolve it outside of anything in your raising area. Like, if you put this down in your raising area, that's pretty cool, because then you can promote and then potentially get extra swings with, like, some of the level 6s that you have in the deck, which is cool. But mostly this is in here as an extra level 5 that we can evolve into if we need to go into Imperial that way. And it's also a Digicross component for the Dorbick that lets it swing twice. Because letting you swing, like, because Dorbick will clear their board. And the way this card works is if your opponent has a Digimon in play that has sources, you don't unsuspend. But if your opponent has a clear board, then you do get to unsuspend. So your Dorbick being able to swing twice with Rush is pretty phenomenal. It is an extra name. It is a one-of. It is entirely cuttable, but it does provide more consistency for that engine. So for the Dorbicks, we are playing 3. I was originally playing 2, but I decided that going up to 3 was more important, because you can use a Dorbick for a Dorbick in your play. So that way, even if your opponent like de-digivolves you 1 with like an Alphamon or some effect like that, then you just go straight back down into the regular Dorbick. But this card is phenomenal, and it doesn't really clump in your hand because you can use it to Digicross for itself. So you always want to have it. 4 is too many. I think 3 is the perfect amount. For the rest of the level 6s, we did have to cut down to make room for the Dorbick. I am playing 1 copy of Dragon Mode, 1 copy of Fighter Mode. These cards are still phenomenal in Imperial, and you do want to play them. And I kind of wish I could play 2 of at least the Fighter Mode. But what I elected to do instead is put in a single copy of a Zulongmon. So what this card does, right, is it just straight up wins the Bloomlord matchup. So people kind of forgot about this card, and for good reason, because it hasn't been good since Blue Hybrid format. But when you Digivolve, you trash a source from the bottom of all of your opponent's Digimon in play, and then you gain 1 memory and security attack +1 for every card that they have in play with no sources. So you can get into crazy plays where you like HPD your Imperialdramon into this and then go up to like 10 memory. And then clear your opponent's entire security attack in the Bloomlord matchup. It's very phenomenal. It is worth playing because that matchup is so common and it is so oppressive. And again, it's a different name dragon for the Dorbick play, so it's phenomenal, and I highly recommend you try it in the deck. If you don't like it, cut this card for either a second copy of Fighter Mode or a second copy of Dragon. Going into the Tamers, we got 2 copies of Davis, 1 copy of Davis Ken. These cards are pretty standard for Imperial. They're just great cards. Davis will let you get a double hit most of the time. Davis can let you get a unsuspend if you go into a Fighter Mode or a Dragon Mode. But the 4th Tamer that we are playing is the single copy of Sora Joe. So this card combos really well with the Blukomon, with the Howling Memory Boost with the Sorai. However, like I said, whenever we do get the Security Blukomon, all those cards will go away. So this card can become a second copy of Davis Ken if you want it to. Or it can become a Matt and Sora if you want it to. That card is also phenomenal. Just be careful when you're digicrossing because you will put yourself to less than 8 cards in your hand if you do play with that card. So for the options, closing out the deck, we got 3 copies of Megadeth because you don't want to leave home without this card. It's just phenomenal into metalgarurumon, even Bloomlord, things of that nature. This card is just absolutely fantastic. And it's one of your only answers to examon as well, so that's also really nice. I hinted at it earlier, but we do play the 2 copies of Howling. Being able to use this card for 2 memory with the Bt11 Blukomon is absolutely insane sometimes. Being able to stun something, and you will be relying on the memory boost from time to time, so you do want to play some sort of memory boost. And sometimes you do want to not bottom deck your green cards, so the blue memory boost isn't as valuable. So I do really like Howling, and I think even if the Blukomons leave the deck, you might still play one of this card. But for now, I'm playing 2 because it does combo well with some of the other cards that we have in the deck. And then for a couple 1-ofs, we got a 1-of Ice Wall, because I'm only allowed to play 1. A 1-of Hidden Potential Discovered, because for some reason, Bandai has not banned this card yet. Like, seriously, Bandai, what are you thinking? We are in a format with Bloomlord, and even without Bloomlord, like being able to Hidden Potential your Imperialdramon into the Azulong and gain like 7 memory is absolutely absurd. This card will forever be dumb, and card design has to limit green megas as long as this card exists as a playable card in the Digimon TCG. And for that reason and that reason alone, I think you should just ban it. But now that we're in a mostly blue deck and we can play this, we're getting into stupid territory where this card just becomes, if you see it, you can kind of win just out of nowhere sometimes, and that's pretty cool, I guess. And then the last card of the deck is we have the single copy of Sorai. It's a good 50th card. It can help stun some matchups. Like, it's really good into BlackwargreyX, and again, Bloomlord. There's a lot of text into this deck specifically against Bloomlord just because Bloomlord is really strong. And I guess the Megadeths. This card is also pretty good into metalgarurumon, so that's nice. But yeah, being able to stun your opponent's entire board is pretty cool. Gaining, and if you have multiple copies like Blukomon in play, like in my testing, I've been in situations where I had 2 cards with the Blukomon source under, and I was able to activate Sorai for just 2 memory, pass my opponent to 1, and then stun their entire board, and they were basically able to do nothing. And then on the next turn, I Imperialdramon OTK'd them. So that was really fun. But yeah, that's about all I have to say when it comes to this deck. This deck is a deck that only gets stronger. It is a very rogue pick, but it's built off of the backbones of very strong decks. Like, Dorbickmon and Imperialdramon are both very good, And I think that this deck actually has potential coming into this format and coming into the next format being Bt11. Especially if like our box topper is the security rookies. Like this card or this deck gets really degenerate having 7 Pot of Greeds in your security. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below with your thoughts and everything. But we will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.